Barely 2 weeks into the Donald Trump presidency, international business leaders are still waiting for a clear idea about whether his campaign promises of protectionism and changes to banking regulations will be honoured, and if they are, what that will all mean. One of the first acts of Donald Trump's presidency was to cancel America's involvement in the TPP trade pact. Well, CNN international business correspondent Richard Quest is visiting New Zealand, and he's in our studio here in Auckland. Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. It's lovely to be here.
You've had a long flight.
It is. It was 15 hours 51 coming down from Doha on the Qatar Airways, longest flight in the world. But I'm fully expecting tonight it's going to be even longer going back because of the winds. So Monday's flight northbound clocked in at 17 hours 7. So I've got my compression socks and a few movies and an antihistamine, and I might just make it all the way back up to Doha tonight.
Good stuff. And no problem coming into New Zealand at customs, but people getting into the US have faced problems. You, as a big fan of aviation and also a business journalist, will have been watching this very closely. And Trump's ban on these Muslim countries. Is it a mess? Is it chaos?
Well, the president said last night, and he tweeted that everything was fine and that everything was working according to plan and it was normal and there were reasons why they hadn't given 24 hours notice. But if this is normal, I'd hate to see something when it goes abnormal. The reality is that the immigration ban and the various measures of the EO came in very suddenly. They came in without fully being vetted by other departments. And the natural effect of that has been an element of chaos and confusion. Long story short, now, of course, it's up to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that's going to rule on this. And I think, again, if you just look at the range of people who have filed who have filed to be amicus curiae, who filed amicus briefs with the court. You've got all the tech companies on the West Coast. You've got people like Madeleine Albright. This is going to turn into a humdinger of an appeal before the Ninth Circuit, which is due to be on Tuesday. And, of course, it will then go to the Supreme Court. But the tentacles of this will go much greater than that, because the tentacles of this will live on into the confirmation process for Neil Gorsuch, the Supreme Court nominee.
Okay, so that's one barrier. We've got other physical barriers that are being mentioned, the wall between the US and Mexico. So that's going to happen. What are the impacts, though, of both the physical and the economic barriers that Trump is going to be talking about? What is your view about what the Trump presidency means for the global economy?
We don't know. We can say with a certain degree of certainty that he is clearly going to have an infrastructure spending bill. He will clearly roll back taxes. He will bring down corporate and personal taxation. He is clearly deregulating the economy. These are all net benefits for economic growth. He wants to get growth to 3 to 4%. Last year it was 1.6%. So you can already see that there's going to be a tremendous boost to the US economy. But that's what the stock market loves, by the way. That is what the market loves. That's what the banking sector loves. It loves the rollback of Dodd-Frank. Longer term, we don't know what the effect of, for example, cancelling TPP is going to be. We don't know what the effect of disruption of trade lines to Mexico might be. We don't know what not negotiating a free trade deal with Europe might be. There will be a cost-benefit analysis to be done on the opposite side of the domestic policies. We just don't know. But if anybody who thinks that this rally in the market, this post-Trump bump as we're calling it, is here to stay, it is for the short term. Longer term, hold on to your hats.
When does the rubber hit the road then? Do you see a flashpoint where that confidence ebbs away and the longer term reality of perhaps that protectionism that you're talking about kicks in?
Yes, and that kicks in when Congress starts to get to grips with the executive orders. Because a stimulus package, for example, or a massive tax cut, remember, the president doesn't have the power of the purse. That has been given to by the Constitution to Congress. And there are many Republicans in Congress who do not want to see the budget deficit and the federal deficit explode. Now, the president has clearly got a lot of leeway at the moment. His coattails are long. But if you just look last night, for example, last night, I say now, you just look at what happened with Betty DeVos. This is one education secretary where the Democrats were able to attract just a couple of Republican senators. To be fair, the Republicans have a majority in the Senate, but it wouldn't take a huge amount to pick off some of those senators. Eventually, as you get towards the midterms, things get more difficult. If the rubber hits the road, as you put it, and if things get very sticky, then eventually you will start to see it coming undone.
OK, can I talk to you as a journalist about covering Trump? He's called your own organisation, CNN, dishonest. It's probably among the more charitable things
he's
said
described
about
us as, look, he says, we, and I'll include you in this, this leaky boat has room for more, we are amongst the most dishonest people on earth.
Yes. OK, and if you look at Der Spiegel today, the editorial there says that as painful it is to write this sentence, the president of the US is a pathological liar. The president of the US is a racist. He is attempting a coup from the top. He wants to establish an illiberal democracy. This is the vocabulary of Nero. It is the way tyrants think. Now, that from a pretty respectable news organisation and editorial. Is the media overreacting to Trump? What is your take?
I don't think you can give ground on this.
What does that mean?
Well, when you have a president or a leader, let's take it out of the realms of Donald Trump. Let's just take it as any leader. When you have any leader who has said this is a self-declared war on the media, where they have gone forward and said that there are such things as alternative facts, where they have introduced executive orders, which by and large most people are starting to come to the conclusion that they're probably unconstitutional in some regards, then we have a job to do, sir. We have a job to do. And it is nothing more grandiose than that. And we can dress ourselves up with all sorts of pomposity and all sorts of grandeur and robes, but the reality is plain and simple. You put your kecks on, you put your hat on, you get your notebook out, and you go out and do your job. And that's it. And, we have a role to play. In New Zealand, you have a role to play. In global broadcasting in the United Kingdom, in the US, CNN has a role to play. And I'm not going to dress myself up in anything grander than simply saying, I'm going to do my job.
You are very nicely dressed up, though, today.
Well, yeah, but the point I'm saying, you understand the point. That if we have to call, I would never call the President of the United States a liar. I would simply say he's got mistaken facts. Is the President aware that the facts he has given are incorrect? We'll give him the benefit of the doubt as to whether or not he intended to. Same with Sean Spicer. But at some point, the Constitution of the United States is the prevailing document. And reasonable men and women can disagree on an interpretation of the Constitution. However, you can't go and drive a coach and fall through it. And that's the significance of this case on the executive order. Look at the number of people railed against it on the immigration ban. The president still says he was against the war in Iraq. He said it during the campaign. The evidence is clearly against him. The president has numerous times comes out with statements which clearly cannot be sustained by fact. It's our job merely to point that out. It is not our job to do more.
Thank you so much for joining us. Really interesting to talk to you, and I hope that very long flight home goes well too. Richard Quest there from CNN visiting us in New Zealand. He is, of course, the international business correspondent for the network. It's 28 minutes past 8.